everyone, and welcome to the Women's Clave / Writers Class. And shoot, I might even put this in Meet Hollywood Monday, because I'm not going to lie to you, this lady is amazing. It's one of my favorite authors, top 5. Because you know my first one, and I will always love and hold her dear, because she wrote the first thing I ever read that was like, she got it right, and I never will. But she got it right. It's what I wanted to write ever since I was 12. Camilla Monk is amazing for that. But no one cares about that because this is me rambling. And let me tell you guys, Jade is not here today, which means my banter is absolutely horrible. Like, I just did a show before this, and I actually did such boring banter, I almost fell asleep. Literally. If there was not hair over my eyes, people would have known I had nodded off in one eye. Oh, that's a terrible joke. Let's just move on to what I do well. Yes, because I am the narcissist. By the way, I'm Winona. Oh, I remember to introduce myself. High five to me, no social distance, because it is me. So it's my own germs. That's still weird. I said it in the show before, and it's still weird. But I mean, let's be for real. Everyone knows we're thinking about safety and germs today. So in 2020 and 2021, not so weird. Once again, I promised books. So books that we wrote. I am part of the And I Thought ladies. So we have the And I Thought series. Number 1 is And I Thought Divorce Was Bad with Other Life Lessons. That is also an audiobook as well as And I Thought Being Grown Up Was Easy. And to finish out the top 4, because, you know, Jade is in here, so I have to try to give her a little nod. We have And I Thought I Did My Journey Alone, her favorite book. And lastly, the one that was number 1 on the Amazon best-selling list in poetry and anthology. That is the only time you will hear I say our books are poetry and anthology. Because, I mean, honestly, when you say poetry and anthology, you'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm back. It's just the idea of poetry and anthologies. But it's the Women's Cave Other Pop Poems. Our books are literary life guides with life lessons. That's what it is. Because we are pop poets. Not the boring type. Fun type. All right, you can find everything that your ladies are doing on www.andwethought.com. By the way, I forgot. In 6 weeks, the 25 hottest authors, artists, and advocates magazine, which comes out once a year, will be coming out. And you can find out more information about that at www.andithoughladies.com, our brand new website. It's so it's brand spanking new. You know, Smack the Buns gets its first breath of air new. That's what it looks like. I think I'm done talking about me, which is a first, because I'm a narcissist and I can always talk about me. But you don't want to hear any more about me. You want to hear about our wonderful guests. Wonderful guests, would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, I am Heather Graham. I am thrilled to say that I have been writing for, oh my God, like more years than I actually want to admit to. I'll say there are at least several decades in there. Absolutely love what I do, and I am grateful every day of my life that I get to do it. I absolutely love books and still love to read. I read anything I can get my hands on just about. And I'm just super, super happy. It wasn't what I started out to be. I was a theater major and I worked at dinner theater for several years until I had several children. And then it was costing me more to go to work than I was actually making doing dinner theater. So I was super grateful to be able to turn the career into books because I love books.
I'm just happy that she can write because, as I said, third favorite author. Like, my young self is like doing an Irish Jake for real.
I can actually do one. You said 3 things about yourself. My mother was born in Dublin, Ireland. And so we were taken around to many different Irish festivals as we grew up. So yes.
Okay, so I have to ask right now, because you are a writer and you did say Ireland. Writers are known to drink sometimes. So do you know a good Irish whiskey I should try?
It's yes. And we have dealt with luckily it skipped me, but we've dealt with a great deal of alcoholism and addiction in the family. And I'm not sure. I mean, it just comes in various. My husband's Italian. They've had trouble too. My dad was Scottish. So, I mean, I think everybody does. So I've got to admit, though, I'm super glad it missed me. I do love a good Guinness. but that's about it. Yeah, no, I'm not a hard liquor person. Like I said, I
Um,
really, really do enjoy a good Guinness, but besides that, coffee. Coffee is definitely.
Otherwise known as the lifeblood of a writer, coffee, especially
I'm
when you're
telling
stuck.
you, it was funny in my house. I didn't even have coffee until I was about 17 or 18. I didn't even have pizza until I was 17 or 18. And I embraced both lovingly as soon as I got to know them.
Oh yeah, I can see that. There's nothing like wonderful cheese and caffeine.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Very much so.
So I would normally ask my generic question here, but I feel like it's utter foolishness. So I'm gonna ask a question I want to ask.
Okay.
How is it that you can keep turning out so many books and they're so fresh and new and exciting? Is
Oh,
there a
well,
secret that all authors should know?
thank you so much. I mean, first of all, for that comment, thank you. I think that, I mean, for one, life has a tendency to hand you new things all the time. I live in Miami, Florida. I grew up down here. And if you read our newspaper, you get crazy every day. Actually, the entire state of Florida, you get crazy every day. So there's that. Um, and then I think one of the most important things to me in any book is characters. If you get into your characters or background, what makes them tick, and you come up with people, whether the good people or the bad people, who are interesting. I find that the challenge. But I also think, I mean, I have a tendency to, I love New Orleans. I spend a great deal of time in New Orleans. Actually had still will probably return to it at some point, had a Writers for New Orleans every year after Katrina went through. Um, I just think it's one of our most interesting, wonderful European diverse cities in the country. And I love the architecture and everything, but it's, oh my God, does it have great ghost stories and great murder stories and great all kinds of history going for it. And that's true with I mean, almost any place you go, if you dig, you're going to find some cool history and some cool stories. But I also spend a lot of time down in Key West. And we have one of the wackiest stories from down there you ever want to hear, about a guy who fell in love with a corpse. And well, he fell in love with her when he was living. I'll be fair on that. And he pretended to be a doctor, pretended to help her, even though she had tuberculosis, which she was going to die of at the time. And then he arranged for a beautiful funeral for her, and then brought things to the grave every day, and then just kind of stopped. And 7 years later, they found that he had been living with the corpse all that time. And since it was Key West, Florida, nobody noticed that he walked around buying piano wire, mortician's wax, and things like that. You know, it's Key West. You do what you want to do, you know. So, and then of course there wasn't really anything to keep him on because for some reason the doctor down there decided he was sane. Actually, I don't know that many other people who've slept with a corpse for 7 years, but you know, whatever. Um, and then, you know, it was too late for the statute of limitations on grave robbing. So he wound up going to Zephyr Hills, where the actual wife he'd come to the United States with from Germany or through Cuba was living, and she helped set him up, and he charged everybody, a quarter, so they could come and hear stories. I mean, how there are stories like this out. You cannot be stranger than what's real. That's Elena de Hoyos, and if any of your man called himself Count von Cassel. But anybody can look it up. It's absolutely true. And there's a book written on it, which is very interesting, called Undying Love. So, but I mean, that's anywhere in the country. Spent a lot of time. My husband has an amazing family. His dad was one of 11 and his mom was one of 6. I think the man has at least 200 to 300 cousins. We haven't even managed to collect everybody yet because there are so many. They're wonderful. They're loving. They're just as sweet as can be. But they when they came to the United States, they moved into Massachusetts, and so we wound up spending a lot of time in Salem and in Boston. And there are some, beyonds what we all know, and the actual, kind of really tragic piece of American history where we hanged witches. They have all kinds of very bizarre history up in Salem and Gloucester and that whole New England part, where you're going on. My family immigrated into Chicago. They got some wacky stories there too. So I think you can, wherever you are, wherever um, you have friends, wherever you go different places, you're always going to find new things to go with. And then again, I mean, obviously travel has not been what it was. Um, but we've all been living online. So, traveling kind of in a different way. Oh, and then again, of course, I love Dublin, where my mom came from, and then I love Stirling, Scotland, where the Grahams came from. So they have some really creepy stories there too that you can take off with.
Okay, since you keep talking about stories,
Pardon me?
since you keep talking about stories, I have to know, do you have any really cool stories about being like at the top of your game? Because you are one of those authors that have name recognition, something we all wish we had. Do you have any of those stories?
Let's see. I'll tell you one of the funniest stories is I was on a television station in New Orleans once, and you know how they book things well ahead. Well, since I had been booked, they had a new producer. And when I went, when in the interview, she asked me about the movie. And I was kind of thought, oh my God, she knows about this movie because I was honest to God in the world's worst kung fu movie ever made. And so I'm wondering, where did she get this from? And we're talking and she's asking questions and I'm answering them. And we're about halfway through before I realized she thinks she's interviewing Heather Graham, the actress, because when they changed producers, apparently it didn't come through. And then she was very nice though. She was impressed that the actress was putting on a benefit conference in New Orleans, which I guess she would. She's apparently a very nice person. But that was very funny. I think one of the best times I ever had is I belong to International Thriller Writers, and we have something called the Thriller Master Award, and I was bowled over to receive that. I'm just absolutely very, very grateful. It's been to Lee Childs, it's been to R.L. Stine. And then we also had George R.R. Martin. He was one of our thriller masters. And I happened to be the only female who'd gotten it who was in New York at the time. And so I got to be on a panel with R.L. Stine, Lee Child, I'm going to forget somebody, George R.R. Martin, I know I'm going to forget. And then we were interviewed by an incredible author named Jeff Ayers, who's still wonderful and helps with everything. And we had a picture taken afterwards, and it's going on my tombstone. I was so excited. I was so excited to be there with them. I never thought that. I don't think any of us ever get to the point, where you. I mean, we obviously have a certain ego. We have to have a certain ego, or you wouldn't be able to. Most of us know from beginning you wouldn't be able to take the rejection if you didn't have a certain amount of ego. But I don't, sometimes I'm still in awe, that authors I admire so much are just lovely, normal people who are happy to talk to others. I have found in all my experience with fiction, I'm a fiction writer, that, oh my God, like Kathy Reichs, Bones, Tess Gerritsen, Sandra Brown, all these people are me. Charlene Harris is the nicest human being you're ever going to meet. And so I think that's the high point, is getting to go, well, once upon a time, getting to go to conferences and, and finding out what an amazing and giving community it is. People are just great.
I have to say that out of all the entertainment industry that we have ever chatted with, not saying anything against any of the other entertainment industry people, you all were wonderful. You chatted with us. To me, that's wonderful. You're all good. But authors are so very, very giving. Like, they're so always like, no, I can give you a moment to tell you a little bit about advice for this, or, and you cannot ask that from other people.
No, I
Sometimes
think
even during
that
their interview, you can't ask.
I know somebody every once in a while you'll hear something about, oh, they're just making that all up. They're each other's competition. No, there are hundreds of books written every month, and I can't write hundreds of book a month. I mean, I just not even I can do that, and I write a lot. And different things, different people I love for reading for very different reasons. I used to like I grew up with I grew up with let's see, my dad had all kinds of Navy books, and then he had Edgar Allan Poe and all this type of thing. My mother had Mary Stuart, Dorothy Eden, Phyllis Whitney. So there were all kinds of reasons for picking up different books. They gave you different things. And I still feel that way. There's not I really have my bases covered. I belong to mystery writers, romance writers, ITW thriller writers. I'm horror writers. I'm trying, because I really love them all. So when I have an opportunity, a lot of the time to do stories in different venues, I do them. So, but again, I mean, who else is going to, you know, are you going to be on the phone with and they're going to listen when you're like, oh my God, this cover's awful. What do I do? Should I say something? Should I accept it? Or, who else can you laugh with over different things with an editor? I adore the people I'm working with right now. And I have been very lucky throughout my career working with wonderful people. But I think one of my favorite editorial notes was once a long time ago, she wrote in the corner, I struck this line about her chewing her lip. I believe that were she to chew it one more time, it would have fallen off. So, but who else can you share that with but another author? I mean, I really, knock on wood. Yes, bad things happen. Bad things happen everywhere. But 99 out of 100 is one of the nicest communities you're ever going to get to be involved with.
Oh, yeah. I definitely agree. It's one of the nicest communities until it comes to writing your query letter and you get rejection letters that'll form. Besides that, it's great.
I thank God. I do think that is one thing that I'm so grateful for, that I have been doing this for a while, because I don't have to write a query letter now. Yeah, that's hard. Query letters and synopsises are extremely hard. But I did learn to work. I think most of us start off kind of just writing, kind of getting your feet wet, so to say. And then some people still to this day, and there's no right way to do it. Everybody's got their own way, their own amount of hours they work per day, whether they just want to write everything down and then get back to it, or whether they write 10 pages and then they edit pretty carefully. There's no right way. They're all right. But I do work with the synopsis most of the time, which can change. But I found out after I'd been in a few years and started doing multi-book contracts that they would pay you for a synopsis. And when you have 5 children, you're very happy when they pay you. Yeah. So, and then I find out that they're good. You've got somewhere to go. You may go in a different direction, but you've got somewhere to go every day and some idea of where you're going.
So that knocks my writing class type of question right out the window. If you're a planner or if you just write like by the seat of your pants. So obviously you do synopsis, so you're a bit of a planner.
Yeah, no, I do. Most of the time I have an idea. Yeah, like I'm saying, I've been somewhere, I've heard some bizarre story that I can put people in with. So I'll base it on the place, and I'll begin with that, and I'll know what characters I'm using and why. And then, and go from there. And then after I've gotten sometimes I would work with the prologue, sometimes I don't, but I mean, either way, like the beginning pages, so I really have a feel for people and where I'm going with them. And then I'll do a synopsis about where I'm going. The other thing I have discovered after this many years is it's really good to have a Bible with character names. And like one of my favorite things from a friend that I ever got is she was laughing because she had done a series and had kind of completely blanked. And so in her first book, her protagonist had blue eyes. And then in the second book, her protagonist had green eyes. And this was pointed out to her. So by the third book, her protagonist had beautiful blue-green eyes, But if you have a Bible, you kind of keep those things. Uh, you're able to refer to them quickly and find out what you're doing.
All right. I feel a little uncomfortable asking this question, but considering that you're on a podcast and I am an indie author, I have to ask. Any thoughts on the new boom of indie authors? I'm not even going to be specific. I'm just going to ask any thoughts.
Oh, I have, yeah, no, I think it's great. I mean, there's two ways to look at it, obviously. As there will be people out there who are careless, they're going to write something and put it up the next day. Most serious authors are looking for a career, not just like, to get something up once. And so you are going to be serious about your editing. You are going to be serious about your content, and work on all these things. Years and years ago, I was at a conference, and I remember it was a pro conference, and they had a panel of New York editors and agents, and you were kind of allowed to attack them, not attack, but ask the hard questions that you wouldn't want to in a reader situation. And someone there stood up and kind of pointed at the panel, and she said, "You're archaic. Just give it a few years. No one's going to need a publisher anymore." And then she went on to say, all you're going to need is someone who can edit your work, someone who can copy edit your work, someone who can do back copy, and someone who can come up with a cover, and someone who can, do marketing and advertising. And the whole room is kind of quiet looking at each other. It's kind of like, well, that is a publisher, actually, who does all those things. So it's great. But the only thing I say to people, because I do believe with my whole heart, there's a million gems we would never see if it weren't for indie publishing. And that's because publishing has to, they're corporations. They have bottom lines, that sometimes they love a book, but they're afraid to take a chance on it. And I think that's the gem that we get with indie publishing. And I think that, to me, that's the only important thing. I definitely believe in it wholeheartedly. You just have to remember to edit yourself, hopefully. Somebody says something about, oh, well, you don't just want your mother to read it. Well, your mother might not be as cruel as she should be. But if you have a friend, if you have somebody read it who you're willing to listen to point out if you do have flaws, and then again, just make sure to proof. I don't particularly proof as I go. In fact, I make a friend, I still to this date, before I turn them into New York, I have a friend who, or actually mine go to Canada, but I make a friend read everything so that she can tell me, if she sees something glaring, or also, finding my typos and things like that. So just, I think with self-publishing, we need to remember the term self-publishing and try to make sure that we put all the elements into it so that it's a good book, so that when you write your next book, people who read the first one will come back and get your second one. That to me is important.
That's the best answer I've heard, but it might be because it's coming from you. So you're gonna be like that horrible.
Anything I say is my opinion. Remember, it's my opinion.
And I do have to ask the next question, which I'm sure you already knew I was going to ask. Can you give us 3 tips on how to become a successful long career author? Besides luck.
Be true to yourself. Again, some people say you are working and you have a bunch of little kids at home. Maybe you only have a couple hours a week that you can put into what you're doing. Make sure that you do it. Be dedicated to it. Be true to yourself and keep up what you're doing. Secondly, I think one thing I hear people say that kind of bothers me is, oh, I don't read anymore. I don't have time. I think if we forget to read, we forget why we love what we're doing so much. And then I think my third is, people say, write what you know. I am also a big believer in write what you love. Whatever fiction is exciting you, or even if it's nonfiction, if it's a story you want to get into, make sure you love it, because then your excitement and the way you feel about it is going to come through.
I believe that immensely. I mean, when I was 12 years old, I wrote about organized crime.
There you go.
Because I loved it. And the people were like, it's the weirdest thing for you to write about. You don't know anything about it. No one's going to read it. But for me, my tiny little 12-year-old self, by the time I was 14, I had a nice base that went from, New York to Florida. It was only 200 people, but it was mostly 200 veterans because they loved the story for the action and things. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So like, at that point, I was writing in a notebook, and they were paying me to read the notebook. So when the notebook came back,
cool.
I shipped it out.
That's
again.
fun. Yeah. Oh, that's
I knew nothing about it, but I sure did my research. So there you go.
That's fantastic. Yep.
So
there you
write
go.
what
Well,
you
yeah.
love.
No,
Yeah.
research is I mean, there are so many things that we can research, but that's something else I recommend to authors. Obviously, right now it's very, very hard, but the different organizations I belong to are absolutely wonderful. That we have people in them. This guy writes wonderful books. D.P. Lyle has been a medical examiner, doctor, and you can get all kinds of, hopefully you're not bothering them every other minute, but you can ask your friends when you need help on something, can this work? We have friends, authors who've been with Florida Department of Law Enforcement, with the FBI, with various police forces around the country. People who come from everything, vets, musicians, I mean, you name it, people come from it, and you meet all kinds of people who can help you, who give you information. Sometimes you never even knew that you wanted it. It's like, whoa, I can use that. I really seriously recommend groups. They're so amazingly supportive that it's a good thing.
I agree. I remember reading this. I think it was a post somewhere on social media that a writer tries to become an expert on things in a couple of months to finish a book. And I had never really thought about it. I was like, but we tend to listen to people a lot, especially when they're experts, and then we do research on it. So when the topic comes up in a conversation, I mean, we actually have something of value to say. And how many books have you written that you had to research that you're now like almost a semi-expert in? I mean, no one would know certain things. But anyway.
I actually don't know how many.
I was sitting here counting. I was like, I think there was 34, 35. Anyway.
It's a few.
And I want to encourage everyone who is listening to this to please go pick up the entire backlog of them and then start from the beginning and read on up. Because I'm going to tell you, it was fun. I started from the beginning and I'm halfway there, but I'm not done. Can you tell us where to find your website and where to find out more information about you?
Yes, I found out I'm actually set. I was going to have my website be sadly the original heathergraham.com, but everybody said no. So I am the original heathergraham.com because I am a few years older. I was born Heather Elizabeth Graham and she was born Heather Joan Graham. So it's real for both of us. But since I'm older, I get to be the original heathergraham.com. So, and it's all up there.
Thank you so much. I just still can't believe it. I feel very blessed today that Heather Graham's not.
You're so sweet. You know what? I was going to leave you with one of my, has to do with anything that you do in life. Actually, one of my, got to grow up with the Irish. And this is my favorite saying that I ever learned. Don't be peeing on me head and telling me it's raining. That is a good one to go by for life. So I thought I'll leave you with that one.
Thank you so much. And please know I'm going to use it. And probably not in a way that it even fits in a conversation, but I'm going to use it because you said it.
You'd be amazed at how many times you find yourself thinking that. You're sitting there listening to something and it's like, so that it's popped into my head my whole life every time I'm hearing something that I know is absolutely not true. So yeah, she's haunting me still. She's about 5 feet tall, but anyway. Thank you.
So I'm going to wrap this up for us because I'm running out of time and I've used up way too much of her time. of your time. It's just
No,
you could be writing the next good book that I'd have to be reading.
thank you.
So I'm gonna wrap this up by saying that you can find out everything that your ladies are doing at www.andwethought.com. And again, with the abbreviated, Jade is back, by the way.
Jade is here.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to do this correctly. So the abbreviated website, which will be at www.andithoughladies.com. You can check out when we go to andwethought.com on the homepage is my podcast, is the one of the podcasts where you can hear professional actors read my TV script. I'm very proud of that. Oh, of course, you get to hear all sorts of celebrity and talent manager interviews and on there too. But as a narcissist, I only care about who's reading my script. But most importantly, please listen up for this one. On the ladies tab down in the middle, you can see the charities that we probably support. I'm going to do the long explanation, Jade. Sorry. In the middle of the page, those are those 3 charities. She's telling me I said middle, not middle of the page. So middle of the page. And you can support those charities by giving them money, some time, your expertise, or if you can't do any of those things, because it is COVID, so it's hard on everybody. Just send them a little note and let them know that they are doing wonderful work and that you see them and that they're still very important to this world, because you don't know how much a good word of encouragement will make you keep going. And we need these charities in the world. So to wrap us all up and to try to sound as wise as that whole charity thing, remember that wisdom is all around you if you're open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love, you guys, from Winona
And Jade,
the behind the scenes Jade.
Oh, thanks for listening.